Another controversy over the Nobel Peace Prize. It's been awarded to the president of Colombia after the people of that country voted to reject his deal to end half a century of war with FARC rebels. So how is the prize awarded? And is the decision political? This is Inside Story. Hello, welcome to the programme. I'm Adrian Finighan. The Nobel Peace Prize Committee is again caught in controversy with this year's award to the President of Colombia. Juan Manuel Santos is praised for signing a peace deal with FARC rebels to end more than 50 years of war. But the people of Colombia rejected the deal in a referendum. The chair of the Nobel Committee announced the prize decision.
The Norwegian Nobel Committee has decided to award the Nobel Peace Prize for 2016 to Colombian President Juan Manuel Santos for his resolute efforts to bring the country's more than 50-year-long civil war to an end. President Santos initiated the negotiations that culminated in the peace accord between the Colombian government and the FARC guerrillas. And he has consistently sought to move the peace process forward. Well knowing that the accord was controversial, he was instrumental in ensuring that Colombian voters were able to voice their opinion concerning the accord in a referendum.
So, who is Juan Manuel Santos? The president belongs to one of the most influential families in Colombia, long involved in politics and the media. Santos led a major offensive against FARC fighters when he was defense minister a decade ago. The crackdown included the killing of a rebel leader when a camp was bombed in neighboring Ecuador. After Santos became president in 2010, he introduced different policies to those of his predecessor, Álvaro Uribe. In 2012, Santos confirmed that secret talks were being held between government and FARC representatives in Cuba. Well, the Nobel Prize winner has been controversial in the past. The European Union was awarded in 2012 when EU financial policies and austerity measures had sparked protests in Greece and Spain. US President Barack Obama was awarded the prize just a few months after entering the White House in 2009. And a joint award was made in 1994 to the former Israeli leaders Shimon Peres and Yitzhak Rabin, as well as to Palestinian leader Yasser Arafat. They worked on the Oslo Accords, which aimed for peace between Israelis and Palestinians. Lots to discuss on the programme. Let's get the thought of our guests. Joining us today from Oslo is Sverre Lodgaard, who's a senior research fellow at the Norwegian Institute of International Affairs. From Charlottesville, Virginia, we're joined by David Swanson, who's the director of the World Beyond War website. And also in Oslo, Frederic Heffermehl, who's a Nobel writer and author of Nobel Peace Prize, What Nobel Really Wanted. Gentlemen, welcome to you all. Sverre Lodgaard, if we can start with you first. According to Alfred Nobel's will, the Peace Prize is to be awarded to individuals and institutions that have done the most or the best work for fraternity between nations, for the abolition or reduction of standing armies, and for the promotion and holding of peace congresses. Is President Juan Manuel Santos, therefore, a worthy recipient of Nobel's Peace Prize?
I would say yes, because this comes under the label of fraternity between nations, in this case fraternity, peace between the people of Colombia. So there is no doubt in my view about that. But the committee has been criticized over many years for having cast the net more and more widely beyond the three criteria that you just mentioned. There has been a tradition right from the beginning to award humanitarian work. The first prize winner in 1901 was Henri Dunant, the founder of the International Red Cross, and there is a long record of human rights awards. Recently, in this century, contributions to sustainable development and prevention of climate change have also been awarded in 2007 to Al Gore and the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. And that has been, and it remains, controversial because the implications, the consequences of climate change is a wide open field, and it remains to document the relationship between climate change and conflict.
Sverre, broadly speaking, though, you think that the prize, as it stands today, is honouring Nobel's true intentions?
I would say that is a matter of debate, because, as I said, the committee has widened the interpretation of the will. It has refuted the criticism, but I think it's fair to say, at least this is my impression, that the criticism has had an effect, because the committee is more conscious these days of the need to justify each and every award in reference to the Nobel will.
David Swanson, what do you make of what you heard there? I mean, of course, not everyone's going to agree with the committee's opinion on who and who isn't deserving of the prize. Its decision, as we've heard, is often controversial. It's sometimes even been awarded to individuals who, in retrospect, appear pretty poor choices. But on the whole, are they broadly getting it right, do you think? Are Alfred Nobel's intentions being honoured?
Better than some years. So if you go to their website and they have a poll right on the homepage of their website, do you think giving this award will help the peace process? This is not how the award was supposed to be used. It was supposed to fund grassroots activism for the elimination of weapons and the end of war, groups that actually needed funding. Here they're giving it, again, these former parliamentarians from Norway, giving it to one side of a peace process with Norwegian parliamentarian involved in the negotiation in an attempt to influence it, knowing as little about that process clearly as they knew about U.S. politics when they gave an award to Barack Obama, thinking that would make him work for peace, where if they'd asked anyone in the United States, we would have told them that would make him even more likely to wage wars. Here they're giving it to one side of a very precarious peace process and blatantly denying the other, where on South Africa, on Palestine more than once, on Ireland more than once, on East Timor, on Vietnam, they attempted, one side turned them down. They've always given it to two sides of a peace agreement. Here they give it to one side, the guy who looks like them, the wealthy guy who doesn't need it, the parliamentarian, the right-wing conservative, former Minister of War, Minister of Defense being just a euphemism for Minister of War. This is the sort of person they give it to, a high elected official, not a grassroots activist movement for the abolition of war and disarmament. And so, yes, this is better than giving it to warmongers like Barack Obama or the European Union. It's better than giving it to unrelated humanitarians who work for education or small loans or the environment. But it's not what Alfred Nobel would have thought was needed.
All right, we'll put those points to Sverre in just a moment, but I want to bring in now Frederic FML. So what do you make of what you've heard so far?
I think Nobel Prize does not exist anymore. It is completely disconnected from the intention of Nobel. And it's not a question, like Lodgaard says, of widening the idea of peace. Peace is not an expression used in the will at all. And the prize is for, as Swanson says, the champions of peace. And Nobel makes three expressions on fraternity of nations and disarmament and peace congresses to explain. This puts us right in the picture of Bertha von Suttner in the 1890s and her successful novel, Lay Down Your Arms. I have in my book, when I discovered how the prize was misused and that I had completely forgotten the legal aspect of this, I have said that the prize could just as well have been called the Lay Down Your Arms Prize. And this was ahead of times in 1895 when Alfred Nobel wrote his will. But it's much more ahead of time today when we are so thoroughly militarized that people aren't even able to think of a demilitarized world order. The prize was for a new peaceful world order where countries cooperate and base their relation on law, not on military power competition.
Okay, let's put those points to Sverre Lodgaard then. Sverre, is the prize being misused? Does the committee have an ulterior motive? Is it being politicized?
There is no ulterior motive, but the committee can be criticized for instance, giving the prize to Al Gore and the Intergovernmental Panel. It can be criticized for giving the prize to Muhammad Yunus and the Grameen Bank back in 2006, economic and social development from below. It can be criticized for other awards too. But to Frederic Heffermehl, I would have to say that your views are well known, but they are minority views. They are refuted by the committee. So the committee has felt free to update sort of the meaning of the will, and to Swanson, today's award. I agree with you that it was a surprise that the prize was given only to one of the parties, as you pointed out in the past. Both or all parts of agreements were awarded. And the second criticism is that this prize was awarded Santos even before a final agreement had been clinched. Much good work has been done in the case of Colombia. The ceasefire is upheld. All parties down there say they want peace, so presumably they are pretty close to an agreement. But apropos Obama, 2009, who got it at best too early, this time the committee has gone even further in that direction and obviously awarded the prize in the expectation, anticipating that there will soon be an agreement, and they want to encourage that.
David, I'll be with you in just a second. I want to hear first from Mr. Heffermehl, who wanted to say something there. Frederik Heffermehl?
Well, I have every sympathy with the plight of the Colombian people, and of course I want this horrible suffering to end. That's not a problem. But the problem is that the prize is not a peace prize. It's a prize for a special solution to security policy. We have immense security, so-called industry, and we have experts of all kinds on security policy. But if you take one step back and look at it, it's the most insecure, most costly, it's lethal danger all the time. And Alfred Nobel, before he died, he was able to envisage a bomb with the destructive force of a nuclear bomb. He saw that this has to be avoided. Nations must end their military competition and learn to cooperate. And there is so much to earn, and maybe even we may survive if we are able to end all these concepts of security policy that are completely flawed. But it's so in our backbone that most people are not able to open their minds to the idea that Nobel had. I would like to add one thing about, because it was very rightly put to Lodgaard, the question whether the intention of Alfred Nobel has been followed. And it's obvious that this is not the case. But now, as a result of my books and my studies, and there has been a development where the committee at least mentions Nobel and tries to claim, make lip service to being within the intention of Nobel. but they are making their own ideas about the words that Nobel used, and they even cannot quote them right. To justify this year's award, the last sentence is that this prize is creating a national fraternity, which is well within the idea that Nobel had in mind. But they can't even see the difference between national fraternity and the visionary plan of a fraternity of nations cooperating in peace.
David Swanson, do you want to come back on what you've heard there?
Well, a number of points. One, a will is a legal document. You can't vote it down because the committee has more people on it than Frederik has people in his office. This is not a sort of debate. It's a legal document. You have to comply with the law, even if the general culture is moving in the opposite direction toward acceptance of war. You have to go with what the maker of the will demanded, and you can't find a Nobel Peace Laureate in recent years who even would approve, if asked, of the elimination of standing armies. You know, they aren't even asked if they agree with the goal of the prize, much less have they been the leading activist working for it in the past year. You look at someone like Barack Obama and say, at best, he was given it prematurely. The leading warmonger, the leading maker of war, the leading builder and proliferator of weaponry and standing armies in recent years, you cannot say he was just given it too early. But this idea of giving the prize in anticipation of something good being done is counterproductive. They made Barack Obama go out of his way to make clear that he was a maker of war. He gave a pro-war acceptance speech in Oslo, the first and only ever on record. And he gave another one recently in Hiroshima. We must always have war. This is a prize that is going to be damaging to a very precarious peace process where people on the other side already see it as unfair and have voted it down. And now you're giving a Nobel Peace Prize blatantly, unfairly to only one side. It damages what they think they're trying to help because they're not peace experts. They're former parliamentarians in Norway.
I want to come on to the makeup of the committee now. Sverre Lodgaard, there were a record 376 nominees for this year's prize. How does the committee choose the winner? And who chooses the committee? How independent is it? Is it swayed by public opinion, by Norway's national interests, or by professional lobby groups?
It has documented through its awards that it is rather independent of the government. The strongest example of that is from 2010. When Liu Xiaobo got the prize, and that blocked political relations between Norway and China till this day. However, it goes without saying that the prize is coming from a Western country, and that has put its mark on selections of winners over the years. Historically, there have been very many American winners, very many European winners, and organizations which received the prize have had their headquarters in the Western world. Recently, however, the committee has tried to become more global, and it has shown that through the awards. This, I think, is both a function of the committee becoming more conscious of being global, and it is also a function of globalization. Conflicts far away are getting onto the screen, even in Norway. Let me add one comment on Obama.
Very quickly, if you can.
Swanson.
Very quickly.
I said at best it was made too early. At best. And I also agree that it remains to be seen what the impact of this year's prize will be in Colombia. I have been critical myself of this decision.
David, I'll give you a right of reply in just a moment, but first, Frederic Heffermehl, should the decision be left in the hands of a politically appointed committee from just one relatively small nation? Should it perhaps be made up of a group of international scholars and not political appointees?
International scholars, they are security scholars, and they are accepting, most of them, the exact opposite of what the Nobel Prize was supposed to be about. And in fact, we have formed something called the Nobel Peace Prize Watch. And we have found that the deception of the general public as to the actual intention of Nobel is so strong, bad, that we cannot longer live with a secret selection process. Therefore, our organization at nobelwill.org, we have published all the nominations we could lay our hands on that come within the testament. And there everybody can go and see who should have had the prize if Nobel had been respected.
So were there, I'm sorry to interrupt you, were there, do you think, more deserving potential recipients of the prize this year?
Yes, the prize this year was again a Norwegian politician's prize, not a Nobel Prize. But we have the criteria for awarding and selecting the winner, and we have 33 candidates with the full nominations, so people can check and they can discuss the criteria. This is, I hope, is an approach which will, in the long run, create a more healthy atmosphere here. Actually, we have also gone to the Swedish authorities and have, in 2012, reached a decision by the Swedish Authority for Controlling Foundations, which ordered the Swedish Foundation in Stockholm to take charge of the Peace Prize and make sure that it would study the idea of the prize and give instructions to the Norwegian committee, and then would not pay out a prize which is not within the will.
I'm sorry to interrupt you again, but we are pretty tight for time here. David Swanson, I know you want to come back. All of this raises the issue of relevancy, I suppose. I get the feeling from what you're saying that you don't take the Nobel Peace Prize that seriously. However, the world still takes it pretty seriously. Certainly the news media takes it pretty seriously. How can the Nobel Peace Prize remain relevant if the committee continues to award it so controversially?
Well, it can't, although the alternative Nobel Prize, so-called, this year got it even worse. But I think that there is an academic field of peace studies now with experts on the making of peace and the negotiation of peace and the avoidance of war and the pursuit of disarmament. And these are the experts that should be turned to, at least for consultation and advice, by any panel that is trying to award a peace prize. They seem to look just to each other, to other politicians, to other pro-war academics, to, in the case of Obama, name recognition and popularity and corporate fundraising drawing ability. This is not how the decision should be made. The decision should be made in the spirit and the letter of the law of the will, and be given to the sort of people that Frederic Heffermehl has listed and posted the nominations of on his website at nobelwill.org. nobelwill.org.
Do you think there were more deserving recipients, potential recipients this year?
Well, clearly a great many, beginning, of course, with, if you were going to Colombia, giving the prize to both sides. It takes at least two parties to make peace, and to give the prize in an unprecedented manner to just one side in such a precarious situation is going to more than likely hurt the process. But to give the prize to people who are working around the world, to the peace movement in Japan that is struggling not only against nuclear weapons, but against the reversal of their constitution, turning a peace nation into a war nation, with an incredibly courageous effort against that. There's endless good nominees on Frederik's website.
Gentlemen, I'm afraid we're out of time. Many thanks indeed for being with us today. Sverre Lodgaard in Oslo, David Swanson in Charlottesville, Virginia, and Frederic Heffermehl also in Oslo. And thank you, as always, for watching. Don't forget you can see the programme again at any time just by going to the website at aljazeera.com. For further discussion on this issue, join us in the conversation on our Facebook page at facebook.com/AJ Inside Story. We're also on Twitter at AJ Inside Story. From me, Adrian, Finighan, and all the team here in Doha, thanks for watching. We'll see you again. Bye for now.